Hi guys, JT here, and today I'll be bringing you some information on the Humble Bundle, the Tactician's Bundle of December 2022. To help you answer the question, should you buy it? If you want to know more about game bundles, feel free to like this video and subscribe to my channel. It really helps the channel out. Anyway, let's get into this. At number 1 we have Gears Tactics, a fast-paced turn-based strategy game from the Gears of War series. Set before the events of Gears of War 1, Gears Tactics puts you in the shoes of Gabriel Diaz, a soldier who ventures out with a fellow fighter, Sid, to take down a locust scientist who breeds mutant monsters. The story is told via cinematic cutscenes that weave the narrative and gives you context for each battle. The game itself is mission-based, and as you complete missions, you rescue and recruit new soldier units that you can customize and deploy throughout the campaign. Your units function on action points, or AP for short, and with every move and action that you take, your AP is depleted. The game is not about rigid movements and will allow you to shoot and move at the same time as long as you have enough action points, reducing the stress of maneuver commitment. Even with a greater range of actions, the combat is by no means easy. You're expected to use all of your abilities and skills in order to win each battle. Like, some unique abilities are only available if you go up close and personal, putting you in greater danger. As an example of this are executions that can only be performed on units that are in the adjacent grid space. However, you are awarded 1 bonus AP for every other unit on the team, rewarding you with aggressive gameplay. Both you and your enemies will have access to the Overwatch abilities, so if you run into their line of sight, they will attack you and vice versa, if the attacking party has enough action points to execute it. Many valuable skills and weapons have a cooldown timer rather than limiting your number of uses. Like, frag grenades can be used every 8 turns or so, and it is crucial to time these as you don't want to be caught without a frag grenade when you reach an emergence hole which spawns locusts, or you're going to have a bad day. Each enemy unit is unique, with distinct perks that you must familiarize yourself with to succeed. Your units are also unique, and knowing your units and your enemy units, what they are strong and weak against, will bring you far. Your units can also specialize themselves in specific skills after gaining enough experience points on the field. There is a limit as to how much experience points a unit can amass though, so you'll never be the master of everything on the skill tree. The enemies in this game can spawn relentlessly, and they can move as soon as they spawn, increasing the difficulty of the game as they can easily foil your plans if enemies spawn suddenly between you and the objective. You can also find cases containing weapons and armor mods which are randomly awarded upon opening. There's no base customization like in XCOM, but you'll get a campaign that is chock full of missions to take on. So if you like Gears of War and XCOM, then you'll definitely love this. Just don't expect the same depth as XCOM. At number 2 we have Red Solstice 2 Survivors, a real-time tactical strategy game. Taking place in a distant future, humanity has left Earth to colonize Mars, but a virus called Stroll has taken over Mars and transformed many organisms into huge bloodthirsty mutants. As an executor of Cell, your job is to lead a team of heavily armored heroes and free Mars from the grips of mutants. Your goal is to unite and lead the team to detonate an orbital weapon. You'll be fighting your way through scattered pockets of resistance, first alone as you seek other survivors to join you in your cause. However, these survivors don't actually join your assault squad, strangely enough. Instead, they become NPC voices on the radio. Your squad mates consist of randomly generated soldiers with generic names like Bob and Carl. This game is sort of a combination between XCOM and a twin-stick shooter. You have basic combat that can be automated, like activating an Overwatch mode that will have your character shooting at anything within sight like XCOM, and various skills which you can assign to hotkeys. You can also switch to more powerful secondary weapons to mow down wave after wave of mutants, and it is so satisfying. Be forewarned though, if you're playing alone, the AI isn't great. Your squad mates can get lost and then murdered by an overwhelming force, but thankfully death isn't permanent, nor will failing a mission heavily penalize you. Time only progresses when you're scanning the world map and traveling to a mission. You can assign research projects that will take several days. Soldiers that you have lost don't even have to recover, just launch the next procedurally generated level and keep playing. An interesting thing about this game is that you don't want to spend too much time on a particular level as you can get overwhelmed by the horde, and when it comes, it is never ending. This makes embarking on side missions risky as you'll be spending more time in the level, which could trigger the deadly horde. Once you start losing soldiers, it's only a matter of time before you go down with them. In saying that, side missions are worth doing. You have access to special abilities and items that you can pick up like explosives, extra grenades, and stimulants. You can also deploy turrets and shields to help with the horde. If you're sick and tired of your dumb AI pals, you can always enlist the help of your friend or a stranger via a drop-in, drop-out multiplayer. There's a ton of different enemy types, even though they pretty much do the same thing, which is to overwhelm and murder you. You can also demolish some walls for shortcuts or access, and environmental hazards can be used to help you out. This game, strangely enough, does not offer a lot of customization. While there's a large ability tree to upgrade your talents with XP, there isn't much diversity. Red Solstice 2 Survivors is a decent game and fun most of the time. It just gets bogged down sometimes by its poor AI and spiking difficulty, making it more fun with friends. And number 3 we have Dark Deity, a tactical RPG game. The story starts with a war brought upon by King Varric, who desires conquest. Students of Brookstead Military Academy are forced into combat before completing their full training. The protagonist, Irving, and his companions Garrick, Marin, and Alden realize that there is something nefarious at play, as shadowy figures searching for magical artifacts have come out. With the world at war, a corrupted king, and a necromancy threat, it is up to you to save the world and restore order. This story is told countless times, but where this game shines is in its narrative with a great cast of characters that are full of personality and have great banter with one another. This game also features a sizable cast of characters that you can recruit into your team. Over 30 in fact. However, the main draw of the game is not in the story, but in the addictive strategic combat and character customization. You'll be assigned specific objectives on a large map, and these range from killing all enemies to escaping a location. As your characters move around the map on their turn, they can engage in one-on-one combat with a targeted opponent. Positioning units based on their class types is important. Mages and archers can strike from afar, while lancers and sword wielders need to be up close and personal to enemies. The interesting thing is that when your character is defeated in battle, they don't instantly die and become unusable. Instead, their combat capabilities are lowered, but get defeated enough times though, they will become unusable. This game offers a good amount of challenge without punishing players for experimentation with class types. Each class has its own advantages and disadvantages. Combat success is also affected by the type of damage and armor, making it important to pay attention to each matchup. Each character also comes with 4 different weapon types: power, finesse, focus, and balance, that will affect their combat capabilities. If one type of weapon isn't working on an enemy, you can change it during your turn to see if it is more advantageous. Weapons can also be upgraded with tier tokens, obtained from defeated enemies or purchased from shops. Eternal aspects are unique pieces of equipment that offers a ton of different bonuses like increased damage or dodge that can change the tide of battle. Some characters come with eternal aspects, while others can be found in chests. Battles are highly engaging with additional layers of choice and customization. It makes it very addictive. If you like strategy games and addictive loop with tons of possibilities for customization, then you need to play Dark Deity. And number 4 we have Star Renegades, a tactical roguelike RPG game. A service bot named JT1N has arrived in your dimension to warn you of an impending doom from an overwhelming force known as the Imperium. You play as a band of rebels, fighting against an evil authoritarian empire, and to stop them you need to fight through 3 planets to get to the Empire's mothership. Being a roguelike, the maps are procedurally generated and to provide a challenge every time. In fact, the Empire evolves with you, so if you fail to kill an enemy in a run, that same enemy will evolve in your next run. Like you, the Empire also recruits new enemy units, so each of your runs will feel very different. The combat system will be the thing that keeps you coming back for more. Every turn plays out on a 60-second timeline. If you get an attack in before your enemy, you will land a critical hit on them. Critical hits can add extra damage or special effects, or most importantly, push your target back a few seconds. If you keep pushing them back, you may be able to nudge them off the track entirely, making them miss their goal. In turn, enemies can also do the same to you, so it is all about balancing big hits, which tend to be slower, with speedy preemptive strikes. Even though there is some rock, paper, scissors systems going on, the main element is the timeline, which is the source of all of the best strategic decisions. Imagine that you are moments away from death, only for you to find a way to postpone it on a timeline. This isn't always simple though, as the UI can get cluttered with information, flashy visual effects, clouds of damage numbers, and way too many icons that never explain themselves. If you die, you will be sent to a hub where you get to recruit new allies and upgrade your gear and party with the resources that you have gathered in your last run. Cards also help deepen the strategic element of the game. If you're into a unique roguelike that emphasizes on turn-based tactical combat, then this is a game for you. And number 5 we have John Wick Hex, a hex-based tactics game set in the John Wick universe. John Wick Hex takes place before John met Helen in New York City. Hex, an international crime mastermind, abducts Winston and Sharon off the New York Continental as an act of rebellion against the High Tables, and stows them away at an undisclosed location. In response, a contract is put out by the High Table to retrieve them, and John Wick is dispatched to ensure that fealty is sworn. The plot follows Wick in his prime, as he sets out to dismantle Hex's network of underbosses and enforcers across New York and Switzerland on his way to end Hex's reign and reassert the High Table's dominance. This game has a timeline-based combat system, as opposed to the traditional turn-based combat. Every character on a level moves whenever you move along the minimal hex-based grid. Everyone moves at the same pace, and each action, be it shooting, melee attacks, weapon pickups, require preparation time, as well as the time required to actually perform the action. Most actions, apart from regular melee strikes and gunfire, use focus points, which you can recharge whenever you have a couple of in-game seconds to spare. Timelines at the top of the screen shows how long it takes for you and visible enemies to carry out each action. It is vital to keep track of this, as you need to determine if you can execute attacks before your enemies do, or at least make sure that during your attacks you are either on the move, crouching, or dodging to minimize your chances of being hit. It does feel like a top-down super hot. You'll often run out of ammo, and health packs are at a premium. But through a combination of meticulous melee moves, like throwing your empty gun at an enemy's face, you'd be amazed at how many corners you can fight out of. Your position at the end of each action is critical, and some actions like takedown and push allow you to attack your enemy while either changing your position at the same time, breaking the line of sight of other enemies, or closing the distance to your next target. The campaign takes about 9 hours to finish, and you may find tactics that work for you, like running around the pillar. This game takes an interesting path to movie tie-ins, and is definitely worth experiencing or just trying out. Just know that this was already previously available in Humble Monthly October 2021, so you may already have this game without even knowing it. And number 6 we have Warhammer 40,000 Mechanicus, a tactical grid-based strategy game. Mechanicus puts you in control of an array of Adeptus Mechanicus forces, allowing you to lead tech priests and troops on a tactical quest to salvage ancient technologies from the mysterious catacombs of the Necron tomb world, Silva Tenebrae. The Necrons are slumbering Egyptian-themed Terminators from the beginning of time who absolutely hates the living. You are to explore and investigate Silva Tenebrae before they awaken. In addition, you'll be reminded constantly of their awakening with a constant ticking clock. Your missions will consist of raiding these tombs, exploring room by room, with little choose-your-adventure vignettes popping up in each. Choices presented in these rooms are not very interesting and does little to affect the world. Combat is way more interesting though. For a tactical strategy game, this game lacks any cover, making combat fast and lethal. Combat revolves around a currency called Cognition, which you can earn by scanning obelisks and corpses among other methods, and you can spend these on extra movement or more powerful actions. You can also use Cognition to summon troops, but unlike your tech priests, these units cannot be leveled up, nor customized. You start with only weak servitors, but with upgrades you can summon more powerful variants like the enormous Castellan robots. The tech priests themselves are highly customizable. Each can attach very strange artifacts, robotic arms, weapons, and other gear. You also have access to 6 skill trees for you to mix and match as you see fit. Some of these trees include a melee tree, a range tree, a healing tree, among other options to suit your particular playstyle. The customization could get a bit much, and by the time the Necrons awaken, you may already be an all-powerful tech priest. But hey, it's really fun to win. So if you like turn-based tactical games, and especially if you like the Warhammer 40k universe, then definitely play this game. And number 7 we have Phantom Doctrine, a turn-based strategy game set in the Cold War, where both stealth and head-on assault are viable strategies. You play as a team of spies, working together to thwart the plans of a rival covert agency. The plot is full of twists and turns and is quite difficult to follow. Just know that it is there to push you along its 40-hour campaign, sneaking, spying, and murdering unsuspecting enemies. However, each infiltration mission may start feeling all the same. There is the occasional brilliance, but overall it does get repetitive. At the beginning of the game, you get to decide if your character is either ex-CIA or ex-KGB, which will determine a distinct intro to the bad guys, the Beholder Initiative. Outside of turn-based combat, you're engaged in a global board game against your shadow opponent, moving your agents between cities like pawns. You also get alerts of activity where you have decisions to make, like if you should send one of your agents off to investigate or just ignore it. You can also assign your agents to in-base tasks like crafting new equipment, interrogating, training, brainwashing enemies, etc, etc. Your enemies are also looking for your base of operation to destroy you altogether. To prevent this, you can always move your base, but it is expensive and can slow you down significantly. The next part of the game is the conspiracy board, where you can move documents around a literal corkboard, trying to crack a dossier to push the plot forward. Your spy agents do face an identity crisis as there is no skill tree to speak of. All of your agents pick from the same perks and weapon training, and they can carry any weapon. It would have been nice to create specialists like an agent who can snipe opponents down. Melee takedowns are also a little overpowered, as any agent can instantly one-hit kill as long as they have more HP than their target. You can also disguise your agent, so you can move around like the Invisible Man. The missions do not have a time limit either, so you can explore the map at your own pace, taking each enemy down and hiding their bodies. It definitely takes away the tension, but hey, you may like that sort of thing. Missions will see you rescuing captive informants, killing or capturing an enemy agent, assaulting an enemy base, or breaking in to recover intel. When your job is done, there will be a helicopter that will come get you out of there. That's when the countdown starts, and you have to get to the chopper as fast as possible. Otherwise, you will have to wait for the next chopper ride. Although the campaign itself can feel drawn out at times, it's a real thrill to execute covert missions and putting all of the pieces together like a master spy. And number 8 we have Hard West, a turn-based squad tactical adventure game set in the Wild West. A tragic turn of events sets a man down a path of supernatural chaos and revenge, brutally hunting down those who have wronged him. This game borrows popular mechanics from XCOM, with its own creative spin on the typical formula, creating something unique. You're dropped in a semi-open environment, free to explore interactable lands and encounters that offer several options, each with their own rewards and consequences. These sections break up the combat portions of the game, allowing you to build an economy, purchase weapons and consumables, and make difficult decisions that will actually impact the game. Like at one point during your explorations, depending on some difficult choices, you could slip into a well and fall to the bottom, causing you to be severely injured. This will ultimately affect your performance and vulnerability in combat later. Don't worry though, as you get healed eventually. Before you start a scenario, you get to choose different difficulty settings and a few optional modes like Combat Injuries and Iron Man, with Iron Man mode kicking you back to the beginning of the scenario if a critical character dies. Before going into combat, you get to prepare your characters for battle by equipping consumables, weapons, and ability cards. Each weapon and consumable come with their own luck, sight, and damage stats, while ability cards can be split between characters. These ability cards are powerful and can sometimes turn the tides of battle entirely. The AI could be quite dumb sometimes, so it is recommended that you play this game on higher difficulties for some challenge. There is also a luck system that depletes when a shot misses you and increases when it hits you. Ability cards cannot be used all the time as they require high luck to activate and has a brief cooldown time after use. Like XCOM, you could move around in a grid-based system, take cover, or engage in combat. Battles are violent and unpredictable when ability cards come into play. There are some interesting abilities like being able to swap HP with an enemy or inflict panic onto enemies by causing a shriek. Several combat instances begin with a setup where enemies are not aware of you until you fire upon them, allowing for some stealth gameplay. However, they aren't as responsive to sounds as the aliens in XCOM, and you could usually take them down quite easily. Overall, Hard West is a pretty good, although imperfect, turn-based adventure. If you like games like XCOM and the Wild West, you may like this game. And that's all for this bundle. This bundle is awesome if you're into some turn-based combat and challenging your brain in strategy. Anyway, don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video.